Thank you so much for taking the time today. I had some questions about your life and your career right now and your future career, things that you'll be doing for the rest of your life, and what led you to this insanity. Because let's be real, it's a strange profession, but I'm a strange person, so that's why I like to...
So you fit right in.
Right. Didn't have to agree so quickly. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, no, I try to be self-aware. Yeah. But, yeah, if we could backtrack a little bit, and may I ask, where were you born?
I was born in Dearborn Heights, but we did move around a little bit when I was a kid, so kind of...
Where is...
Dearborn Heights, it would be in the Lower Thumb area.
Okay.
Kind of like Ann Arbor, like the Metro Detroit area. I know that's everyone's answer. Metro Detroit.
Well, yeah. It's either Metro Detroit or you do this in Point. I didn't start doing this until I moved to, well, Michigan. It's the UP, the 51st state, as it's called. So yeah, so you went to school there, and you graduated high school there, and now what... Was there a moment, or was there an individual who got you maybe inspired to want to be involved in the arts?
To be involved in the arts, I don't think there was any particular person that inspired me to be involved in that as much. I kind of just grew up doing artsy things, if that makes sense. My mom used to do theater a bit, so she was a little bit of an influence. My dad, I grew up with him playing classical music all the time. He plays guitar, but...
Very artsy family?
Yeah, very artsy
Wow.
family, but not as like a profession. So it was kind of just like, that's how I played as a kid. So I had free time and I was like, I'm going to direct a show. So my favorite part was learning later on, like when they were like, wow, Zoe, you're being a little bossy. I was like, no, I'm being a director.
That's right.
That's right. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like, well, I mean, I'm saying this because I have kids. You can like see the little director personality come up. Not with every kid, but I have 4, and with certain people, with certain children, I'm like, that's a director's personality. It's not a bad thing at all.
Yeah.
You know, you're detailed and you know what you want. So yeah, now, what made you want to specifically come to Northern in the Department of Theater and Dance?
Yeah, so I used to go camping a lot with my family, and we used to come up to the Upper Peninsula, and I always found that as a time of just being really relaxed and enjoying my surroundings. I didn't feel the stress of like super busy traffic and like just everything that's kind of associated with like downstate. And people were so much nicer.
Up here?
Yeah, and so, I don't know, when I was looking for schools, I maybe looked at 2 others, but Northern was the only one I applied to, and it just made sense for me.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you mentioned, like, up here, I mean, obviously there's people here in traffic, but not nearly as much, and there's, like, a very nature vibe to it, which is so much less stressful. And, yeah, I can only imagine moving to New York City after this and working there and, like, the stress and energy of that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, can you talk to me about your first show here? And what was that? And did you, like, what was your experience like with your first show here?
There were so many experiences with that first show, actually. That show was a show called Above the Timberline, directed by Kelly Crawford Truckee.
Yep.
And that was my first show, well, first full production at Northern. We had done the Spotlight Variety show before that, now known as Wildcat Theater Follies. But Above the Timberline was my first real role in the department, and that was an amazing devising experience. So we all had to embody these different puppets, and so we learned how to like move our bodies to manipulate these full body puppets, and it was so cool.
That's interesting.
We also ended up, like, there were multiple different characters, but on the night of closing, or like the day before, one of our actors got injured, and our closing performance had multiple covers on stage. We didn't do covers then, so it was a phone call you got 4 hours before the show, going, hey, it's Kelly, call me back as soon as possible, thank you. So I immediately call her back. And I'm like, hey, what's up? And she's like, can you come in early, and I need you to cover for this role. Who is the bird that follows the main character around the entire time and like does not leave the stage except for one time.
And you were just thrown into
And
that.
I was like, okay, we're going in, we're doing this, and it's gonna go good. And it did.
Wow.
Yeah.
You just had that attitude of it's going to go good, and then it went well.
I mean, the energy when a cover goes on just raises, and everyone's so aware of what's going on. The eye contact on stage never been more heightened.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting. I can't imagine being a cover. Well, Jimmy talked to me about this with Spam a lot when he was not a swing. Yeah, he was a cover.
Yeah.
And then, just going on stage and you just maybe sick to your stomach or you're having trouble deep breathing and you go on and then, yeah, like you said, the energy just heightens. And then I guess it would make sense that everybody is very aware because they know that, like,
That person's foot traffic is not the same as the previous ones.
yeah, and then you have to just rely on each other. Wow. And then, so, okay, you were in Above the Timberline. That I suppose was your freshman year.
Yes.
You went right into, what was your major when you first got here again?
I was a musical theater BFA student when I first came in.
Yes.
It was the only performing major that we had like that.
Right.
We do have a dance program as well, but for the BFA we only had musical theater for performance. But the following year we got Jimmy and I switched to acting BFA.
That's right. And so, like, what is it about acting specifically? I mean, musical theater is great, but what is it about acting specifically that kind of got your interest?
I feel like it was more geared towards what I needed the most work on. So when I made that switch, I had decided, there's more of an emphasis on the acting aspect of that I really want to dive into. I really want to make these characters real. How do I do that? And what kind of work can I find along that path?
Yeah.
So that's really why I made that switch, and I added on a dance minor, so I wasn't really missing out on anything, and
Right.
I was also still taking voice lessons. So
Yeah.
it was just more of an emphasis on the acting that I wanted.
Yeah, absolutely. They have it. They really do have it all here. Like, there's acting, there's singing, there's dancing, and like I just feel like the better you are at all of those things, the better you are as an actor. For me, my weak point is dance, for sure. Yeah, and I only took one ballet class. Maybe should have taken more. I don't know. But
You might really like tap.
I might like tap. I might also like jazz. I guess I just didn't give any of those a chance. I really didn't, because I was like, I'm done with ballet and there's no more required dance. Yeah. There's potential. I do a really good moonwalk. I can do the worm as well.
Can you see?
Well, right now on camera, you can't see my feet. We'll have to. We'll get back to that for part 2.
There will be a part 2.
There will be a part 2 where I moonwalk. Oh man. So then you do. What was your What was like a show that stands out to you in the sense of like you had really fun memories, you had fun performing, it was just like a good vibe with the cast, and it was just like what's a show that what?
I'm trying to think. There's just been so many shows.
Oh, that way? Yeah. Yeah, that was probably also like a very general question too.
I think Spamalot.
Really?
I think I miss Spamalot the most. It was a very chaotic time.
It was a pretty chaotic time.
Because by the end of that show, we had like almost all of we ran out of female covers. Like all of us were on stage.
Yeah, I remember that. Megan had to.
Yeah.
Yeah, Megan went on. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I
And
forgot about that. Yeah.
wow. That was a really crazy time, but the bonding between that cast was so amazing, and just the sense of community we had about when a cover was going on. There was nothing else like that, and that was honestly one of the best learning experiences I had, was covering those 8 tracks
Yeah, I felt so bad because I had no costume changes. I knew, and Philip had maybe 17 costume changes.
Yeah.
It was around 17, 18. No, it was, but he had a lot.
He was
and like,
layering everything and had like that harness underneath because he ended up flying because he was playing Sir Lancelot.
I felt so bad for people who had to like, as soon as they got off stage, they had to go immediately change and then go back on stage. Like I had such a cush job for that.
I didn't make one of the costume changes.
You what?
I did not make one of the costume changes
Oh.
during a show.
Oh no.
Because it was the first. So I had gone on for Act 2 on the previous Saturday. And
Okay.
we came back and we did our understudy run, and I was just in for the ensemble track so that I could run it more times.
Yeah.
And oh my god. So we didn't have costumes for that run. And the
Wow.
first one we did with costumes, I did not make it back on stage to take the seaweed skirts off for the Laker girls part.
Right.
So I run on doing the next set of choreo, just not there.
Wow. That's just interesting because like the mistakes you make, you obviously remember, but like I have to remind myself, yes, if I make, because I missed a line once in Spamalot. I don't know if
It
I
happens.
don't know if you know that story, but that
I
was
actually don't know.
that's tell that not
A
on
later
camera.
story.
Tell that not on camera. But I did miss a line in Spamalot, and it's like you remember it, but then I guess I have to remind myself everybody else is thinking about their own mistakes and
Yeah.
their own success, and it's like I need to get out of my own head. But yeah, so now you're set to graduate. You have one more semester after this one.
Yes.
And then, do you have an idea as to what maybe life will look like after, or still kind of thinking about it?
I have kind of like a rough draft of
Okay,
what
yeah.
that will be. Nothing like on paper.
Yeah.
So, for context, I have a lease right now that's up in May. I'm most likely renewing that lease or finding a new place to live with the same roommates, break room. So, getting that new lease
Yeah.
and finishing the first semester. So, I'll graduate in December and I'll still have a lease, so I'll come back to school but not actually be studying. I'll wait for Phil to graduate because he'll just have that one semester, graduate in May. And
Yeah.
at that point, we'll likely go somewhere. We'll probably go back to Ketchikan for a summer to get financially under our feet again after the school year.
Can you talk to me about Ketchikan, because you have been there, I have not,
Yes.
and Alaska has always been like a bucket list place for me. Whether it's Ketchikan or just going somewhere in Alaska, maybe not Anchorage, but sorry, yeah. But I mean, can you talk to me about like, would you live there if you could? I mean, like, would you want to live there? Is it like I from the pictures I've seen, it's beautiful.
It's gorgeous there. I would be lying if I said that I hadn't thought about living there. But the primary goal being wanting to go into theater. I'm not entirely sure. Not that there isn't theater there. There's an amazing community theater.
Yeah.
And it's run by an NMU Theater and Dance alum, Elizabeth Nelson, which is Philip's mom.
Oh, maybe he did tell me that way back when. And I forgot that she also went here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah, so, and she created this really awesome niche for theater there. She basically is the heart of theater in Ketchikan, which is so awesome, and they do so many shows a year. They have multiple children's programs for the arts, and they do everything they can, and I think even more.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
yeah, I love Ketchikan. In general, what I've been doing there for the summer is working either at like the Fish House. I've worked at a bookstore. I've also worked at the First City Players art school program.
You just worked everywhere in Ketchikan, basically. Wow.
Well, not everywhere. I wasn't like on the docks.
Well,
but-
yeah, but you were like, but you went there and like you helped. Well, you worked, not only helped out, but actually worked at places. Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
You move fast, I suppose.
Yeah. I never expected that was something that I was going to be doing. Actually, how that ended up happening was I had a job lined up in Michigan. So I had finished my sophomore year. Philip finished his first year, and he had gone back. I had a job all set up. I was going to work the summer, and I was going to go visit him for 2 weeks. That didn't end up happening because the job interview I went for, it was the third time I went in for the job interview.
For which of the places?
It was like, this was downstate.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
So
Yes.
I had an interview at a place called like Mad Science, and it was basically combining like a theatrical element to science experiments for kids.
Yeah.
And like birthday parties and stuff like that. And the pay was great, and I went in for the third interview, and they were like, "We are so excited to meet you." And then I told them when I had to go back to school again, like this wasn't new information. They go, "Oh, we really would have loved to have you. I'm so sorry, and you drove all this way. I really like your shoes."
I really like your shoes.
I was like, "It's okay. I've been told no before.
Right.
I can handle that. Please let me go. This is far more embarrassing to sit here."
Yeah, you didn't.
And like,
What? But I like your shoes.
But
Why?
I like your
That
shoes.
sounds wildly unnecessary, but
it kind of was, but it's okay.
it is what it is. Yeah.
I went out, printed tons of resumes, walked around town, handing them out, asking, like, applied to a ton of places online, and by, like, a week and a half later, being like, it does not look like anybody is hiring. And just late night on the phone, because the time difference is 4 hours, that was the time that I was able to talk to Philip. And he was like, "Hey, so I already talked to my parents about this. Do you just want to come live here for the summer? We'll find you a job. There's tons of jobs. Like, the tourist industry, they're constantly looking for jobs."
Yeah. And then, so like, the summer, I would imagine, is the main touristy time.
Oh, yeah.
For Ketchikan. How cold does it get in the winter? I know that the Upper Peninsula is colder.
Yeah. Well, it depends. It's kind of like Washington or like Oregon.
It just
Like,
rains.
like a Seattle type of vibe.
It
It's
rains
usually
a
kind
lot.
of rainy. It's the Pacific Northwest. It does snow. It does get kind of icy, but I wouldn't necessarily say that it's the same amount of snow that we deal with here.
Yeah.
It's just a different type of cold, and it's dark. It's dark most of the day. Like, it gets dark at like 2, 3 p.m.
Wow.
So that's really what gets people is just like the darkness. And then if you move closer to the interior, that's a whole other story. Because it gets to like, I think I've heard of it being like negative 40.
Yeah.
That's a whole other way of life.
That's a whole new beast. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like Ketchikan is bearable when it comes to the cold, and like you can still live there, but maybe like the darkness kind of gets to people.
Yeah. I haven't personally experienced what a winter is like, so I'm no expert on that.
Yeah. Well, that's so cool. Yeah, no, Ketchikan. I keep telling Philip that I want to come visit one of these days.
You absolutely should.
Have you taken the ferry, or have you not?
Yes.
You have.
Well, you have to.
Well, but you could fly, right?
Yes, but you have to take the ferry because the airport
Oh.
is actually on the other island.
Oh, I didn't know that. So,
Yeah.
so either way, you're taking the ferry.
You're taking the ferry.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
it's like maybe a 2-minute ferry. Like, you can walk on, or you can, like, if you have your car, you can drive on.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's so cool. I've never. Well, yeah, I already said I've never been to Alaska. I've never taken a ferry. So I suppose both of those things are bucket list things. Yeah, that's so cool. Well, yeah. Well, you're a go-getter, and you seem like you have a good plan, and I really appreciate your time today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yes, absolutely. It's always cool stories on the. I was gonna call it. What was I gonna call this podcast? You know what? I don't remember, so it wasn't important. Anyway, Zoe, thank you so much for
Thank
being
you.
here. Appreciate your time.